So now we come to the masking up stage. Now what we're going to be using is Panzer putty. It's sort of like a new thing that we use now. You can still use blue tack, white tack. It's kind of nice and cheap. I do find it kind of leaves a bit of a residue, quite a bit of a residue sometimes at the end, and you have to clean it up. But with Panzer putty, I do find that is, you know, it's so reusable. It's kind of strange how it reacts, but it is. And what it is this big blob of black sort of putty. I've had this for years. I've sprayed loads of models with it, and it just eats the paint. I mean, you wouldn't guess that this has had paint sprayed on it several times. It just seems to disappear and eat into it, and it still acts the way it normally acts. Really strange stuff, but quite cool. One thing you've got to remember though is excuse me, I had a bit of a cold. What you're going to remember is this stuff, what it does, as you can see, it's slowly drooping. All right, and if you gave this, if I held this here for a couple of hours, it would eventually just slide down my hand like I don't know, like snot or some sort of what do you call it now, slime or something. And that's what's going to happen to your model. It's not one of these things that you can go off and go, right, I'll mask it up, and then tomorrow, next week, I'll spray it up, right? You put this stuff on, same day, spray it and finish it, right? That's the only sort of downside, because as you can see, I've already put some on. What will happen is this will eventually just droop all the way down like slime over, like, you know, a couple of hours a day. So you do really need to get on top of it. So with this stuff as well, we can't just, you know, rip it apart, because it just stretches and stretches and stretches. Whee! So what you have to do is, you know, find a piece that you want, and you do need to actually cut it up, right? So just a bit of a cut, right? Now, because we're doing like, because this has got 3 colors in the camo, and the way the pattern goes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask it up, and I'm going to spray our NATO brown, remove all of our masking, and then mask it up for the NATO black, and then spray it, right? It just the way the patterns are going, I'm kind of thinking that's the way we want to go. So just doing this sight here. Now, it's good to get your instructions in front of you and sort of have them orientated the same. These instructions are a bit of a pain, because when we do the side here, we've got the side, but then we have to flip this around to then sort of have it orientated that way. Excuse me. So it's the best way to go about it. So we've got this bit of brown just here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it up a bit like a sausage, right? So we can sort of maneuver it around the whole shape. Let's just move this out the way and everything. Right, so we're just going to follow this pattern. I'm going to look at the top as well, and it does look like it kind of goes all the way across here as well. So we'll start. So this is probably going to be a bit of a long one. So we're going to start here. Now the black takes up right up to the corner, so I'm not going to actually bother doing any masking here, because I know that I'm going to spray over it later with black. Right, so I'm going to look at the actual instructions. You'll see stuff like recessed panel lines. I can sort of see just starts just past that first panel line just there. So I know I can just start it about here. So I'm going to get there, I'm going to get a little bit of it and just tuck it under, right? And then what I want to do is I want to sort of naturally sort of flow this into a camo pattern shape, right, for that first part there. Then I'm going to turn this and again orientate it, right? So I'm orientated with my bird's eye view, and I'm going to follow the pattern that shows on there. You know, there's lots of references on here with recessed panel lines and where things are, so as you can follow this camo pattern. And I'm just, as I'm going along, I'm just pressing with my finger and then curling it with whatever pattern we're going with, and I'm just following that. And then, do we have any front bits on here? Let's see. Yeah, we've got a bit of a front bit here that seems to really sort of curl just around here, and we've got a bit of excess, so we may as well, you know, not overdo it. Cut a bit off, throw it back in the tub, and we just curl this around. and we just give it a bit of a press down as well. Right, now the cool thing with this, because I know it's a bit of a disadvantage that it kind of just droops and flops and goes like slime over a very long period of time. I know it's a bit of a disadvantage, you know, you've got to work within the day, but at the same time what also happens is, you know, give that a little bit of time now and it'll just droop down that little bit to give you that bit of a sharper edge as well. Right, and then you just want to sort of double check that you've got a nice pattern, you're happy with the pattern, right, and then that's good to be sprayed. But what you might want to do is, it depends on your skill level with an airbrush. Now I would be quite happy personally to take our little camo pattern here and spray nice and close and get that sprayed in. However, some of you might kind of not be so competent with the airbrush, and you might be worried a bit about overspray. So for things like that, what we can simply do, getting out a bit of masking tape, and we can just quite easily just start building up. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be perfect. All we got to do is connect these two together. As you can see, quite easy with the masking tape. Right, we've still got our pattern, we're just stopping any overspray, and you can go all the way around and do that. Little bit of a problem with the Panzer putty, right? Never come across this before because I've never done a situation like this, but because we have this not actually glued into place, right? Hopefully, as you can see, is the whole, it sort of goes a bit like slime and droops down, and it started to slowly release against the piece, which really what we probably should have done, knowing this now, is probably blue tack or white tack would have probably been best for those side skirt. But what I basically did is I noticed it was drooping, so I kind of pushed it back up, and then I just thought, right, let's just get this sprayed, you know, before it droops anymore. So now this is kind of a good way we can sort of show you how we can just sort of remove this Panzer putty. Right, nice and careful, right, and hopefully as you can see, it gives you like nice spray lines like so. Might look a little bit weird without the third stage of the camo on this, right, but it should all come together when we get that third stage. And we can just pull these off, and there we go, nicely got a nice spray camo pattern there. And then as you can see, sprayed onto the Panzer putty. Really strange, you know, you sort of put it with everything else, roll it up in a ball, and it just seems to just disappear over time. I don't know, you kind of come back to it the next day and it's like, where's the paint gone? Really weird stuff, but really cool at the same time. So yeah, probably would have been best to use blue tack there, but as you can see, that's all done there. I'll probably bleach this afterwards with maybe like just getting sort of close and stuff, but just to quickly sort of show you, when spraying this down, we've got some bits I've just done here on the top. Right, as usual, 50-50 mix with our XF68 there by Tamiya. 50-50 mix with homebrew thinners. Now, as I say, you know, you could mask it up all the way around so you stop any overspray, but you know, if you're sort of competent with your airbrush, what you can do is you can get in close, right, get that biting point, and the same kind of biting point that you'd be using for, say, post shading or bleaching, where you're just getting that little bit coming out, right, and you're just coming in close, right, and because we don't want to get the overspray anywhere, we're just sort of nice and lightly spraying it in, nice and close, like we're not sort of blasting out loads of paint, right, because we're in close, we blast out loads of paint, we're going to get spidering effects. Right, so I'm just very slowly just painting this in with that little bit of biting point. Right, and I'm making sure as well my angles, right, I'm coming in at all the angles, right, because the problem is, as you can see, this is like a big sort of sausage. If we sprayed at one angle, right, it's going to give us a slightly potential different pattern. I mean, we could potentially, instead of having a nice sharp sort of line to our camo pattern, if we're coming at just one angle, right, it's potential that we could have like some will be sort of sharp edges and then some will be sort of feathered edges. So you want to make sure you sort of get in there on all those angles, to make sure you are getting a nice sharp edge. Right, and I'm just finishing colouring this in. Right, remember you don't want this to look wet as you're spraying. If it is, just press down the trigger for air. Tamiya does dry really quickly, which is rather nice. And that should be it for that little bit of a camo pattern just there. Right, and oh no, actually I've not come in at this angle. See, you got to be careful. Got that bit of green just showing there because I haven't been spraying it this side. So we just come in there, get that sprayed in, and there you go. That is just double checking. That's one nice bit of a camo pattern, and I can remove that, and there we go. Nice bit of camo pattern there. And as I say, I think what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to sort of like, just because it's a little bit sort of complicated, just get the camo patterns down, and then I'll probably come in and touch up with a bit of bleaching, and then sort of do the whole post shading afterwards. So I'm just going to get it flat, get the camo pattern down. So I'm just going to do this in brown.